Modena in Emilia. Far from the gushing production lines of Milan and Turin, this is where they make some of the most ravishing cars in the world. Lamborghinis, Maseratis, De Tomasos, but above all, Ferraris. Embattled behind his steel fence, Enzo Ferrari broods, makes cars and issues orders. Inscrutable, huffy, autocratic, and 72 years old, Ferrari wanted to be an opera singer, but instead became an Italian folk hero as a racing driver. He once ran the nearly invincible Alfa Romeo team, but fell out with the management when the Germans blew them off the tracks in the 30s. When he left, Ferrari took away a grudge and some of Alfa's best designers. His 1934 Fascist Party ticket never seemed to do him much good or harm, and he never uses the title of Commendatore awarded him under the Mussolini regime. He eulogizes on the people from Modena, their gifts for engineering and for fast driving, without being modest enough to exclude himself. Cars like this have made Ferrari famous. With 4 Formula One World Constructors' Championships and most of the GT World Championships ever awarded, Ferrari's fortunes are based firmly at the track. Since 1923, the prancing horse has identified Ferraris. Racing expertness at Maranello rubs off onto road cars that are sensual and emotive. They can occupy the place in a man's life once taken by his best hunter. Ferraris have won Le Mans more times than any other. For road use, the prancing horse is tamed and quietened, but never broken, merely processed at the drawing board. The production animal, a 365 2+2. Like nearly every Ferrari racing car ever, it has a 12-cylinder engine. Cost is secondary to craftsmanship. Exciting to drive, excitingly engineered, sumptuously furnished. 5 gears, and you can have air conditioning for about the price of a Mini less tax. You get wood, leather, style, and above all, prestige. 4.4 litres, 150 miles an hour, 13 miles to a gallon, so even with a 22-gallon tank, petrol pumps are still only 250 miles apart. Buy one in Britain, and there's not much change from £9,000. At these prices, Ferrari can afford craftsmen. There's a strong craft tradition in Italy. They make machines that have style. Ferrari can afford extravagant engineering. One reason for the speed and balance of a Ferrari is the lightweight casting techniques at Maranello. In the foundry, an aluminium and silicone alloy produces elaborate castings, like this one for the complete sump, differential and gearbox casing of the mid-engine Dino. It needs to be finished off by hand, like a classical sculpture. Most of the 680 employees are paid at the going rate in the Italian motor industry, even though it's said that there are more experts in their own field on the shop floor at Ferrari than at most of the world's car factories. The foundry forges another key to Ferrari's success, more perhaps the key to his independence, because the works has always been virtually self-sufficient. They make their own engines, most of their own bits and pieces, and though the bodies come in now by lorry from Pininfarina, where they are pressed out much like any other, the proportion of bought-in components is small. That's why Ferrari has been able to resist efforts to take him over, until, worried about the fate of his creation, he capitulated to Fiat last year. The competition workshop demonstrates Ferrari precision. A 12-cylinder crankshaft has a lot of work to do. It must be accurate almost to watchmaking standards, yet rotate at perhaps 8,000 revs a minute in the road cars and up to 12,000 in the racers. At Ferrari, they machine it from a solid steel billet. From 167 pounds at the start, they pare off nearly 135 pounds until it turns the scale at only 32.5 pounds. Another time where Mr. Ferrari overruled his cost accountant. Overhead camshafts are only now becoming common on the cars you and I buy, but Ferraris have been using them for 25 years. The 4.4 litre in the 365 GT has 4 of them. Light and compact, it has 6 twin-choke carburetors made at the factory of Ferrari's old friend Eduardo Weber. The valve gear works like a clock. A few of the components are imported. The assembly line doesn't need to be frantic when you make only 25 cars a week, some with self-leveling suspension. Working conditions are important enough for the cars to be put together in an almost clinical atmosphere. The floor is tiled, cleaner than many a kitchen. Average wage is about £75 a month with incentive payments, but despite the almost family climate, Ferrari is not without its industrial problems. Last autumn, when the whole of the Italian industry was disrupted, not even Enzo could persuade his workers back. But as long as the two unions agree, the line moves on at its appointed 2-hour and 14-minute intervals. An Italian rival for the Porsche, Ferrari make about 500 Dinos a year in the fashionable mid-engined idiom, just like the real sports racers. A well-balanced, highly strung sort of car. This is the car Enzo Ferrari called after his son Dino, who died of a virus disease in 1956 after working on the 6-cylinder engine it uses. The V6 engine gives it a slightly better performance than a well-tuned E-Type Jaguar. 4 overhead camshafts like a classic Ferrari, 4 bearing crankshaft, 3 twin-choke Weber carburetors, but the cylinder block and crankcase are cast iron. Even though traditional knockoff hubs have been replaced by 5-stud fixing, the well-proportioned sporting look remains. The mid-engined layout restricts room for luggage, but there's everything else you'd expect in a Ferrari. The price in Britain, £6,242. Succession has constantly preoccupied the old man ever since Dino's death. He's concerned, having founded an empire but not a dynasty. He wanted to guarantee the tradition, the destiny of the cars that meant so much to him, to Modena, to Italy even. With no heir, the alternative was to guarantee corporate continuity. And although against a takeover bid from Ford of Detroit, last year he conceded 50% of his business to Fiat. Fiat have built or provided the money to build an extension to the factory. Something like 10,000 extra square meters of floor have been laid down for a Fiat Dino assembly line. Ferrari employees are philosophical. Fiat may be essential for survival, but they don't want them to corrupt cars like the top of the Ferrari range, the 365 GTB4. Sepulchral black crackle finish of the cam boxes, creamy textured castings. Practical, virile modern art. You can see a Ferrari engine and you can get at it. Close carpeted, fully instrumented. A place for making decisions, and they'd better not be the wrong ones. Sharp bursts of acceleration. You can easily break the 70-mile-an-hour barrier in second. Third is good for 145. If you find a straight on the Autostrada del Sole, you can do 174. A Ferrari is a Holland and Holland, or a Purdy. It's a Hardy rod, a Dunhill pipe, or a set of clubs from Ochterlony. They're the cars for the sweet life and the sun-drenched road. Buy any model you like as long as you have the money. Well, not quite any model. There was once a rich young prince who tried to enlist a Ferrari in pursuit of a rich young princess. He wanted the 195-mile-an-hour sports racer and expected little change from £15,000. But he forgot that the only person who could sell him one was the stubborn old man in Maranello. Ferrari didn't take to him. He sent his check back with a curt word. It's too fast for you, and you're not a good enough driver.